Oishid Aleph. The Rebbe is going to explain now that there are different levels in Nisyonis. The Nisyonis that the Frierdiker Rebbe had, that's Nisyonis that come through Goyim, are a more difficult Nisyoin than a Nisyoin that comes through HaKadosh Baruch Hu with Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Rebbe is going to further say the Nisyonis we have today, even though it's not from being oppressed, but of opportunity, could be a greater nisoyin. There's various different levels of nisyonis, and we need even greater mesiras nefesh to overcome the nisyonis that we have today. Yud Aleph, let's look inside. V'hinei gam b'nisyonis gufo yeshnam kama dargis. Also within nisyonis test, the Eibishter test us itself, there are several steps, different levels, different. The kemoi shebeinyan hanisi yesh kama dargis zul l'maylam mizul, just like in the area and the aspect of miracles, there are various different steps, one higher than the other. There's nes, one level, nes betoich nes, a nes within a nes, etc. Those are different levels of nisim. So just like by near miracles, there's different levels. Similarly, it's also by tests, the challenges, the tests that Hashem gives us, that we have. There are several levels, one lower than the other, meaning it's harder and difficult, even more challenging. Moshe Mevayer Kved Kedushas Admor Tzemach Tzedek B'dibur HaMaschil Achrei Avaye Elekeichem Goymer. The Tzemach Tzedek writes in that Maimer, Shenitfas B'Soif Sefer HaMitzvah Shaloi, which was printed in the end of his Sefer HaMitzvahs, that he brings down Kama Darges Bazeh, that there are several levels in the level of Nisyonis. Ubechlalusu, and generally it's the different levels. Maybe Kveit Kedushas Admrish Mos Eden b'Maimore Divra Maschil Nosate Liראיך Neislis Neisus. So he brings down as Maimer HaMedrash. He brings down the saying of the Medrash. And the Medrash says, Boy urei ma bein rishonim la'achrenim. Come and take a look. What's the difference between the earlier ones and the later ones? And the difference, he says, there is sharishonim hoyu misnasim alidei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The earlier ones, before the testing was done by Hashem. Shenemar, like the Pasuk says, V'ha'elikim nisas Avram. It was Elikim. Hashem is the one that tested Avram. But the later ones, we've been tested by the nations of the world. The nations of the world are the ones that are giving us the challenges, making it difficult for us. So the challenges that we have from the Goyim is much stronger and more blocked than from what Abram was tested, because he was tested by Hashem. The obscurity, the block, the challenge is greater if it comes from the Goyim, from the Umas Ha'olam, more than just stamp tests. And because of that, because it's more difficult, Shalochein, Kedei Lamed Neged Nisyonis Elu, in order to stand against these tests, Hu Al Yidei Dargen Nailis Yoiser Bebitl Umesiris Nefesh Gufa. It is through a higher level, a greater level in our subjugation and a Mesiris Nefesh itself, it takes more bitl, more mesiras nefesh to overcome these greater challenges that come from the Umas Olam. So that we can say, Shazo, this is the idea, Masha Iker, Inyan Hanisyenes, Ubedoides HaAchronim Davke. That the main idea of these tests is specifically in the later generation. And now we have the greatest Mesiras Nefesh. And mainly in the generation of the heels of Mashiach. We're almost by Mashiach. That's when we have all these biggest challenges. Then the darkness is doubled and quadrupled. And the service of Hashem is with self-sacrifice. As explained in the Maimorim of our Rebbes, our leaders, especially in the Maimorim of the Friedrich Rebbe, the ones whose redemption and Simcha we're celebrating, and Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz. So he explains Bepirush HaKosuf V'ish Moshe Onov Me'oid Mikol Ha'odam Asher Al Pnei Ha'adam. Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble from all people that are on the face of the earth. It says, who was he most humbled? Who was he most, which generation? Moshe Rabbeinu was humbled when he looked at the generation of the heels of Mashiach. He saw how, notwithstanding all of the blocks, Godlu ha'halomes v'hastadim, the blocks and the obstacles have been increased. And still, notwithstanding, they're standing with a powerful strength. They learn Torah, Mekayim mitzvahs, and they observe mitzvahs b'mesiras nefesh. Moshe Rabbeinu saw this, especially in the generation of the Yiksa Mashiach, how, notwithstanding all of the interferences, they're still standing very strong and learning Torah and Mekayim mitzvahs. Because of theirs, and the Rebbe says he uses Beloshin HaMaimer. This is the Maimer from the Friedrich Rebbe. He uses, the Rebbe in Yiddish says, is Moshe Rabbeinu bei sich Arab gefallen. Moshe Rabbeinu felt for himself, he fell down. He fell down because he saw that he doesn't reach up to the level of Mesiras Nefesh that the people of the Dora, the Ikus of the Mashiach, have to face. Similar to the condition that was at the time of the incarceration in that country. And also the Rebbe says similar is now. Well, in that country there was a lot of opposition to Yiddishkeit, and they caused the arrest of the Friedrich Rebbe, etc., and all the difficulty. But what is it now? The Rebbe says similar is now too. Even though we don't have such distractions, such preventions like the Friedrich Rebbe had, God forbid, we don't have them for the observance for the observance of Torah mitzvahs, but because there's still hariyeshnom hanisyonos mitzad ha'archava v'hashirus, but we still have the challenges because of the plentifulness, the wealth, and the wide materialistic things that we have. Sometimes, because of this great wide blessings that we have, the test becomes very great. The Yetzer Hara is a craftsman in his job. He knows his job well, and he knows how to get people to turn them away from Hashem and the Torah. Because today he says to him, do so. Hashem, and he confuses the person from the service of Hashem, which means that he gets the person that at least it shouldn't be full. He says, do so, meaning do the mitzvah, but do it so. The Rebbe is explaining, even though he has archava, he can do the mitzvah, but the Yetzer Hara tells him, do the mitzvah in a non-perfect way. How you should really be done. Do it less. And then through this, he pushes the person down from one level to the next level. He starts off binyonim shel his gavrus the nefesh habahamis shebin noiga. First, in matters, he's not violating any clear mitzvahs, but he strengthened the animal soul within the person, which is from klipas noiga, gets increased power. And then later on, binyonei shegig, he gets caught up in accidental things. And then it goes, it's a slippery slope. It keeps on going down. And the person, even though he has all the wealth, but the Yetzer Hara knows how to get it. And how do we overcome it? In order to stand by, overcome all these challenges, the person must labor, do his work with a lot of force, push himself. Tanya, and language that says in Tanya, Yarim alei b'koil rash chulu. He should thunder on the Yetzer Hara with a loud voice, shouting on the Yetzer Hara. Chulu. As our sages of blessed memory say, La'olam yargiz odom Yetzer Tov al Yetzer Hara. A person should always get the Yetzer Tov angry on the Yetzer Hara. Chulu. Raising your voice on the Yetzer Hara, getting angry at the Yetzer Hara, then you negate and you take away the whole existence. The Adarabe, on the contrary, not only does he not interfere, he becomes a support. Because we say, it says the Gam Oivov Yashlim Itoi, that the enemy will make peace with him. So he says, quotes here from the sources, Mishli, that this refers to Zeh HaNochosh, that's the snake. The snake is the enemy. The snake represents the Klippa, the Yetzer Hara, the Satan. And the Nochosh himself will make peace with him, which means that he will no longer be a Metzias that interferes with the Yid Avodah. Now, the fact is that we have a much stronger challenges today, much stronger than all the past, and even in the level of Harchava, it's also a greater challenge. But because we have a greater challenge, it means the Eibishter gave us greater keiches. Umizeh gufa. From the fact alone that the work that we have to do by the heels of Mashiach in our generation is very difficult. So that is evidence that there exists, and we've been given the power also. The Eibishter gives us the koiches, because if he gave us the challenge, he must give us the koiches to overcome the challenge. The Eibishter doesn't ask according to his strength, he asks according to our strength. Hainu, and that is each and every one has been given the power to arouse, to wake up that force that comes from the essence of the soul. We have the power to arouse that etzem hanefesh, and in such a way that it should also shine in your inner koiches, that this should impact your inner koiches until it impacts your thought, speech, and action, your levushim. This is through arousing the etzem hanefesh to make sure that your machshava dibur u'maaseh are proper and you don't fail because of the nisyonis. Sh'al yidei zeh heim kulam besurim laHashem l'teiraser l'mitzvayso. That way, they're all dedicated to Hashem for the Torah mitzvahs. Okay, so here the Rebbe speaks about there's different levels of nisyonis, and he says that we may actually have the biggest level of nisoyin. But because we have the biggest level of nisoyin, we also have the biggest koiches, because the Eibishter gives us the koiches to overcome. The Rebbe ties this in to the other pasuk, Oishit Beis, Zehu Mashenemar, it says in Tilim, Mipi Oililim v'yoinkim yisadeto ois goimer, lahashbis oyev umisnakim. This is the pasuk that says it is from the mouth. The Oililim is very small babies and nursing babies. The Eibishter has given us, found the strength, and from there we will stop the oyev misnakim, the enemy misnakim. This is a maimer that the Rebbe gave, the Friedrich Rebbe gave in Tofresh Pezayin, which actually caused him to be arrested. That's was during that maimer there were spies of the KGB there, and then eventually the Rebbe talked very strongly of them. So, so my father-in-law, the Rebbe, whose redemption and joy we're celebrating in the Maimore Dibra Maschil, the Kibel HaYehudim Eisa Sherechelu Lasis. So over there, he starts off with the Maimer. This was in Purim Cotton. And he says, Kibel HaYehudim Eisa Sherechelu Lasis. In the Megillah, they started to do that, what they started by Matan Torah, they did it by Purim, Lasis. The Maimer was in Shnas Tofresh Bezayin, And and the Rebbe says, Shemaimer Zeh Amrei Oid Lifnei Masorei. This Maimer, he said, before he was incarcerated, the Maimer du Matzav Shal Gezeris Ayumas Benegei Lelimud HaTorah. There was a very terrible situation, the circumstances. The condition then was terrible, disastrous, ayumos, as far as learning Torah. Ubifrat, especially Shalolim V'Yankim, especially the government was against having little children learn Torah. So the Rebbe gave that maimer, and he said, the Yidei Ois, through the Ois, Eberstein gives us Ois. What is Ois? Ein Ois Elo Torah. That through Torah learning, Poyalim, we impact Lehashbis Oyev Umisnakim. To get rid of, to stop the enemy and the Misnakim. This is what he was saying over there, and under those conditions, they didn't want them to learn Torah. And the Rebbe said the Maimer and defied and said, no, that it is Dafke, the Torah Ois of the Oilim V'Yankim, that will get rid of the Oyev Misnakim. What is this two languages? Oyev is enemy, and Misnakim. Misnakim is somebody who is trying to get you. The Oyev, he explains, who's Soine Hagoli. The enemy is an open enemy. V'hanoikem who's Soine Nistar, v'oilel alilis. Anoikem is one who is a hidden enemy, and he's plotting, always contemplating how to get you in trouble. Shazuhi sakona gedola yosel meha'oyev. That's even a greater danger than the enemy. The enemy at least is open, but the misnakim does his things in hiding. Va'yidei oiz the Torah, but through the strength of Torah, nasel lahashbis oyev u'misnakim, we accomplished lahashbis u'misnakim. The inyan oiz the Torah, who inyan hatoikev. What is the oiz of Torah? We're saying oiz el Torah, but what is the strength? What is the hu inyan hatoikev? That the strength of Torah means that it gives you the force not to become affected and allow anybody to stop you or stay in your way. She'ein mischashvim imamniyas v'halomis v'asteinim chulu. That you don't consider, you don't care about any of things that are preventing and blocking and obstructing you. Shal yidei toikev zeh vatlim kol hagzeiros. Through this force, we negate, we destroy all decrees. Umizgala ha'emes, and the truth is revealed. Cherubam, most of them, by and large, ein lahem mitzias, they have no mitzias. They're just trying to scare you. They're trying to terrorize you. This is a test. But really, there is nothing to them. If you stand strong, they will disappear. Where is the beginning? And what's the base of that strength of Torah? That comes from the mouth of the very little babies and nursing babies. Hine siv, because the pasuk says, one can think, what is a baby connected to Torah? He doesn't understand Torah. too little. But the Rebbe says, but the Torah is considered an inheritance. And an inheritance, even if you're 1 day old, you're inherited. The Hine Kasib, because the Pasuk says, Torah Tziva Lonu, Moshe told us the Torah. Moirasha Kihilas Yaakov. Moirasha means it's an inheritance for the Jewish community, the community of Yaakov. Torah is inheritance for every single Yid. The halacha is, even if you're a child 1 day old, he gets a part of the inheritance. And the Yeresh HaKoil, he gets everything. It's not like Yeresh HaKoil, he gets everything, not some things, but he gets the whole everything the Father has. The Pasuk says, in the place of your fathers or the sons take the place and inherit everything of the father. And that's why even little children inherit Torah. They have the entire Torah's inheritance. It's not only that they have the Torah, the Torah by them is the basis, is the foundation. That's a Yesod. Which means, in order to, what's the basis of Torah is when the Torah is by these children. The children need to be the ones that are holding the Torah to make sure that later on the Torah will continue. As our sages of blessed memory say, Im ein gedoyim ein tioshim. If you don't have the kid goats, the small goats, you're not going to have the old goats. You're not going to have older people that are learned in Torah if you're not going to start it at the young age. It gives an illustration of a foundation, a physical foundation. The physical foundation is in the ground. A building you make nice, beautiful, it's all above ground. But the foundation needs to be strong. It doesn't need to be beautiful. It needs to be in the ground just to make sure that it can hold the building. It doesn't matter that it's pretty or not. Foundation doesn't have to be pretty. The only thing that matters is the strength, the force of the foundation. He needs to be strong, such a level that is able to hold up the entire structure. Also, the roof of the building is all dependent upon the foundation. So that the structure should be strong and be standing on its place, anchored properly. So that all the winds that blow in the world cannot move it from its place. So what does the pasuk mean? That through the little children specifically, that's the hevel hatenekis shel beis rabim, that's the ear that comes from the mouth of the children that go into the teachers to learn. Shehua yisoid shel ois the Torah. That is the basis of the strength that we have from Torah. Strength of Torah we get from the little children. That becomes to destroy both the open and the hidden enemies, the oyev and the misnakim. And that's why Torah belongs to everyone. And not only does it belong, but it's actually based on the children. And that learning of the children gives us the basis and the koyach to withstand all the nisyonis that we have to face. Yud Gimel. Yesh lekasher inyan hanal, we can tie this idea, sha'avodas, what idea the Rebbe is discussing, sha'avodas hanisyonis yal yidei mesiras nefesh davke, that it is through the labor of nefesh we need to employ mesiras nefesh to overcome all these challenges, the nisyonis, which is bechinas nes betoich nes shebenefesh. Within the nefesh, it's nes betoich nes, which is the level of yichida. Within the inner of the nefesh, also nes. But anyways, the idea of mesiras nefesh, to connect it in Mashenemar, the Parsha Shavua, that it says in the weekly portion, learning the Parsha Pinchas, like we're doing this week as we're learning the Maimer. So the pasuk says there, Ach begoiro yecholik ha'aretz. The way you divide up the land, you divide it with a lottery. Lottery represents the essence of the soul in the level, when I talk about the human, that is the level of lottery within the soul. That's connection. So the chalukas ha'aretz, the chalukas ha'aretz, we're talking about dividing the land. What kind of land we're talking about? We're talking physically about Eretz Yisrael, but we're also talking about dividing the land above, Aretz Shelamaylo. The chalukas ha'aretz, dividing the land shezekoyi, this refers to al chalukas ha'aretz shelamato, the world over here, the chalukah. Al chalukas ha'aretz shelamaylo, and also dividing of the land of above. What does it mean, the land of above? That's olam haba. Ebeloshim Maimori Razal, to use the language, what is the land of above? That's the saying of our sages, Shehuva, the Maimori Rabbi Shein Resienu, that's brought down in the Maimorim of the Rebbes, our leaders, that olam haba, that is the dividing up of olam haba, that's the Oretz Shelamaylo, and that is divided by all Yid. The Kol Yisrael Yeshnam Chelik Le'olam Haba. So we say every Yid has a part in Olam Haba and Chis HaMeisim Shnemar V'Amar Chulam Le'olam Yirshu Oretz. So how do you divide Olam Haba? He al Yidei HaGoyrel, that is through Goyrel. The land, Eretz Yisrael, is by Goyrel, and also the land of above, Olam Haba, is by Goyrel. What does it mean by goyrel in avoida? Kebechinas hagoyrel shebenefesh. The lottery. What is the lottery when we talk about the soul? Hu inyan ha'avoida shelamayla metam vadas. That represents a service which is beyond reason and rationale. Basically, a lottery doesn't make sense. A lottery is arbitrary. It just happens. When we want to talk about the level of goyrel in the soul, so you have the level of intellect, and then you have the level which is higher than the intellect. That's called the avodah of the goyrel of the soul, serving Hashem beyond reason and rationale. Not only is it higher than chokhmah or bina, but it's the mailo gam mikoyach haratzon. It's even higher than the power of Rotzim, which is a Makif. The level of Goyrel is even higher than that. That's in Etzem HaNefesh. Ukamoi Goyrel Kipshute. Why we're saying it's also higher than the Rotzim? Just like literally, when you throw a lottery, it doesn't hinge at all on the wishes of the one who makes the Goydel. You can want one thing, but it happens, so it means it's higher than Rotzen. Doesn't depend on your Rotzen. And that's why, since we're talking about the Avodah L'mayla Metavadas, Al Yidei Bechinas HaGoydel Davke, specifically through the level of Goydel, Ichalukas HaOretz B'chol HaDargas Shabo. That's the way the land is distributed in all the different levels. Oretz Lamata, Oretz L'mayla Kinal. Hein Olam Habo, both the world to come, Hein Etzrol Kipshutei. The Ein Mikra Yitzim De Pshutei. Talking about even Eretz Yisrael, literally, that's what the pasuk is talking about. Hine Kesiv, because the pasuk says, Eretz Asher Eini Goymer Asher Eini Hashem Lekecha Bo Bereshis Hashona V'Achris Shona. Hashem's eyes are on Eretz Yisrael from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Sheyesh Bazeh Beis HaKtsovis. It has the two extremes, the two ends. On one hand, we say Mitzad Echad, we say from the beginning to the end. Mitzad Echad Hu L'mayla Mimedida V'Hagbolis Hazman. That Eretz Yisrael is beyond measure and limitation of time. It's from the beginning to the end, basically always. But on the other hand, it extends the midas v'hagbola d'zman. It expands in the measure and the limitations of man. Shalochein urak ad achris shana. That's why it's only to the end of the year. You don't say forever. U'mishana shala achrezeh. And in the next year, after the Achris Shana, Nischadesh Oir Zeh, so this oil that lights in Eretz Yisrael, it's renewed by Chodesh Elyon Yosef, with a new light, a higher light, Shalohoyo Meir Adayin, Oilam Oir Elyon Kazeh, that had never yet had such a powerful high light ever. The Oir Zeh, Mislabish Ba'oretz Shalamato, and that light dresses up in the word Lamato, Lahachis, Kol Meshach Shonazu, to vitalize for the entire year. So it's L'mayla Me'azman that comes to Zman. K'muvur Barucha Begeres HaChetsh. And V'lochein Chalukas HaOretz, also the dividing up of the land of Eretz Yisrael, Shabo Meir, Oir Shalamayla Memedida V'Hakbola, in Eretz Yisrael shines the light which is higher than limitation. It's through the level of Goydel. Since Goydel is higher than limitations, that is beyond reason and rationale, and that is what Eretz Yisrael is. Eretz Yisrael is an Oir, which is the Ma'ila Medida V'Hagbola. And that's why we give Eretz Yisrael. How do we divide Eretz Yisrael? Through the Goydel. A little bit what I'm thinking over here, that even though the Rebbe says you need the Avodas HaGoydel to get the Olam Habo, but still we say Kol Yisrael Yesh Lam Chelik L'Olam Habo. So you need to have the Avodah, but every Yid, I guess, has the Avodah. How does everybody have the Avodah? Since it's especially. Okay, there's almost time there, but let's leave it over here. And we'll be mamshuk tomorrow, Be'ezrat Hashem.
Okay.